Good evening. I'm Sam Gold, your host, and you're watching Injured on the Job. You've just seen before us the story of Jenny Moore, the Tracy police officer who was indicted on multiple counts of workers' compensation fraud. We're happy to say that she was found factually innocent of each and every count, and now she has a lawsuit against Cavett and Faulkner, and Christine Faulkner, specifically the defense attorney for the city of Tracy. I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot about that for days to come. The title of this show is very unusual: to protect, to serve, to get injured on the job, and to get tossed on the trash heap. We're talking about public safety officers, police officers, sheriff's deputies who put their lives on the line every day, going to work, not knowing whether they're going to come home in their car or a pine box. It's a scary situation, but they're out there putting their lives on the line for us, and they deserve dignity. But what's happening is when they get injured on the job, some of these cities literally are just tossing them on the trash heap. With us tonight is Bill Settzler. Bill was a deputy sheriff with the city of San Francisco. You were at the San Francisco County Jail?
Correct.
And Mike Hebel, who is an attorney with the San Francisco Police Officers Association, who represents Bill. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let me ask a couple questions. Maybe, Mike, you can give us a little quick rundown on what's happened to Bill.
I'll make it very quick and brief and to the point. Bill was a deputy sheriff. In January of 1990, he sustained an injury to his foot. That was the last time he worked. He has been trying since January of 1990 to get the city and county of San Francisco to either put him back to work or retire him. The case has been up and down the court system. It's been in Superior Court 3 times. It's been up to the Court of Appeals on 2 occasions. And it's back with the sheriff of the city and county of San Francisco, who we hope to be with within the next 30 days to find out how Bill is going to be treated by that agency. Essentially, here's a deputy sheriff, injures himself on the job, and he has a type of disability that you actually have to watch him to notice it. What happens to Bill is when he puts the foot down, he doesn't know where that foot is. So he's very unstable. He has lots of disequilibrium, and that's his problem. Difficulty with the foot, difficulty with the employer, difficulty with the city retirement board. We're trying to get one of the agencies to say, Bill, you have a job, or Bill, you have a retirement. But since 1990, he has been without either. 16 years.
Now, this would have been a great show for our host, Steve Zeltzer. Steve was a stationary engineer until he retired of all places, the jail. So I think what we're going to be talking tonight, Steve would certainly know about, but Steve is out of the country at a labor film festival. So I had to do this show tonight. Anyway, Bill, can you tell us how the injury happened? What caused the injury?
What caused the injury was I was at County Jail number 3 in San Bruno for the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. And I was during the day shift. I was up on the 4th floor and a Sallyport gate. That's a main
Sallyport gate. What is a Sallyport gate?
It's a main gate into one of the housing areas where there are about 75 inmates in cells behind this main gate.
Just like a sliding gate?
It's a sliding gate, yes.
Okay.
And the gate jammed.
Okay.
Now, for the safety of the inmates, we have to make sure that these gates are functioning.
Okay.
Otherwise, they could be incinerated if we ever had a fire there or some other catastrophe or disaster. The gate jammed. Normally, I would have called for backup. I was the only deputy up on the top floors at that time. So I tried to use my key, my upper arm and body to shake the gate. Wouldn't move, wouldn't jam. So finally, I kicked it with about 3 or 4 hard, swift kicks with my body and with my foot. After that, by the end of the day, I could hardly walk. And I landed up going to the treatment room and they put me out in temporary disability there at that time.
Okay. Was there any visible injury on your leg or your foot?
It was swollen up quite a bit, and a situation where little I could not walk at that point in time to put weight on it.
Okay. Did they take you off of work?
I was able, when the injury happened, I was able to finish up my shift.
Okay.
Because we're so understaffed there. I know what it's like without an extra body around.
We've heard about that.
Yes. So
jails are always understaffed.
Exactly. So I was able to finish my shift, and but that was it. I was then I was taken off and placed on temporary disability by the workers' comp treating doctor.
Okay, and basically that literally takes you off of work until they release you. What was the attitude of the sheriff's people at the jail, or I guess Sheriff Hennessy?
Well, the Sheriff Hennessy, at first, he was, basically it was just considered to be a low accident. We thought maybe it would just be a few weeks or months. But now, after all these years, he has been very supportive of trying to get me retired, because he keeps saying, I'm not taking you back to work because you're disabled. And if we take you back
that appears obvious.
And he says if I go back to work, I could be in danger to myself, to other deputies, to other inmates, and I should be retired.
Have they been paying you any type of temporary disability?
I received temporary disability, after the accident happened, $48.50 pay. But I haven't received a salary in over 15 years. I exhausted all my temporary disability benefits and all the other disability benefits years ago. And so today, I'm still an employee of the department. I'm receiving health insurance, but I haven't been paid. And I've been told that they have refused to lift the ban allowing me to take outside employment because of the disability leave policy that says you cannot work outside the department when you're on disability leave.
Sounds like a story for the state labor commissioner.
Somebody.
Because if they're keeping you from working anywhere else in any type of employment because they still say that you are an employee of the sheriff's department, and then they refuse to pay you, temporary disability. Let me ask you a question. Were you found permanent and stationary at any point?
Yes, in January 1992, I was found permanent.
And that's when they turned off the temporary disability.
No, actually, they did not. They turned off the temporary disability a few months earlier, 6 months earlier, when I was being treated by the workers' comp treating doctor. They then sent me to an evaluating workers' comp doctor who said I was fit for duty. I reported for duty, and what happened? The sheriff's department said, no, you're disabled, we can't take you back. So after 3 or 4 months of going back to a sheriff's department, going back to the workers' comp, they finally restored my temporary disability benefits. And I was refused employment at the sheriff's department, or to return to work.
That brings credence to the old expression, catch-22?
That's exactly it. It's been a nightmare.
Let me ask you a question, if it's not getting too personal. How have you gotten along for about 14 years while they've kept you in this retirement limbo?
It's been a nightmare. I've exhausted all my savings. I had a home in San Francisco, and I was forced to sell it. And I've been living off the profits of that, but of course those have long, gone. It's just been a disaster. When you go into law enforcement, you want to serve the public.
Right.
You believe you're doing a good thing with the public by serving. You don't expect to be treated like a piece of garbage, neither here nor there, twisting in the wind, begging for help, wanting to do something, and having doors slammed in your face time and again.
Well, that's happening in this state to a lot of injured workers, whether, doesn't matter if it's a carpenter, priest, policeman, fireman. They're doing it to everybody. Mike, if you have anything to say, please chime in here and give us your thoughts about what he's talking about.
Bill has a case that I frankly have had trouble trying to figure out. I've been working in this field for 32 years. My clients are almost exclusively police, fire, and deputy sheriffs. I've had some cases like Bill's, but nothing to this magnitude of an injured worker, an injured public safety officer whose employer, City and County of San Francisco, has decided to take two opposite positions. The sheriff looks at Bill and says, "Bill, you can't hardly walk. You're not stable. How are we going to put you in a jail system where you have to confront felons, where you have to keep order? We don't think you can do it." And the sheriff's right. The sheriff actually filed a petition to have Bill retired. He felt so strongly about it. That petition still languishes at the City Retirement Board because the board won't allow that petition to go forward. Bill's own application did go forward and was not successful, but the sheriff's still languishes there.
What is their problem? I mean, I observed Bill as we walked into the studio here, and I noticed that when he puts his foot down, he never knows where it's going to. I mean, I just observed that when he puts his foot down, he's very unstable. And how can you walk a tier like that? A tier of cells, or even shepherd people around in the jail when you're not sure of your footing.
It would not be possible. Bill would not only put himself in danger, he'd put other deputy sheriffs in danger, and quite frankly would put other inmates in danger, because he doesn't have the ability to control his own body, his own movement, his own ambulation, much less being able to take control, as a deputy sheriff would have to, of difficult situations in our county jails.
What has the retirement board said? Have they come up with any kind of excuse for their actions?
The retirement board has with the first application that Bill brought, simply chose to rely on certain parts of the evidence. Now, Bill has been examined by multiple doctors, 7 or 8 doctors, of which the overwhelming predominance of the medical evidence, by far, it's not even close, says Bill's disabled. Bill cannot do the job of a deputy sheriff. Nevertheless, there was one doctor that Bill was sent to very early on, whom he hasn't seen in 15 years, who offered an opinion saying, "I think Bill Settzler can return to work." Now, the oddity about that doctor was, Bill went back to the doctor to get a work release, and the doctor consistently said, "Bill, that's not my job. My job was only to evaluate you. I will not give you a return to work slip." So there Bill is, in front of the city's retirement board, where they're relying on the opinion of one doctor, saying, based on one evaluation, Bill Settzler can work. And yet that doctor refused to put him back to work. He would not take responsibility for his opinion.
Was part of that doctor's evaluation a functional capacity examination?
No, it was not. It was Bill can tell you how long that examination went. My impression was it was 20 minutes, if it was that. And when you read the stacks of medical reports, because I have Bill's file in my office, and the file is this big and this high. So you look at the weight of the evidence, and you have this one little tiny report of 20 minutes from one evaluation done back in the early 1990s, and that the retirement system has chose to look at, rather than the treating doctor that was provided to Bill by the City and County of San Francisco, the agreed medical examiner that the city's compensation division and I agreed to have Bill evaluated by. These people have consistently said this man cannot do the job. It is an anomaly without an explanation as to why the retirement system continues to say, we will not give this man a pension, even though his sheriff of the city and county of San Francisco, Michael Hennessy, says, give the man a pension. He cannot do the job.
Would legal action be in the near future to force their hand? Have you tried anything like that? Or let me rephrase the question. Is it possible to use some form of legal action to get them to force their hand, to make them look at that evidence and make some determination based on the evidence?
A while ago, I can't remember how long it's been, several years ago, I spent a whole day over in Oakland at the claims agency going through stacks and stacks of medical reports. And I know the case very well. And I was absolutely appalled to discover inside these stacks of materials documents that were never released to Bill, documents that were never released to myself. They're not only medical reports, but there are reports within the sheriff's department that would have been very helpful to Bill's case had they been produced as they were required to be produced at the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, produced as the law requires them to be produced at the Retirement Board. Now, I've been to the Retirement Board with those documents, and the board still says, we don't think that's enough. We don't think that's sufficient to let the sheriff's application for disability retirement go forward. So, we are working with the sheriff. We will probably be seeing the sheriff within the next 30 days to see if we can again get the sheriff's cooperation to either submit another application for disability retirement, which if he did would be the third, or to go forward with Bill and myself at the Retirement Board to insist, as a matter of fairness, as a matter of correct public policy, that his application, the sheriff's application, go forward to decision.
It sounds like, somebody there at the Retirement Board is just dragging their feet. I mean, it's, one would think it would be a no-brainer. It just sounds totally unbelievable. But again, as you see what's happening to injured workers up and down the state, and tonight we were going to have a telephone interview with two police officers, a husband and wife team from Huntington Park, who have a very similar problem. The wife had two fusions in her neck. She was a canine handler. Her husband was a longtime motor officer who got into an accident on his motorcycle. His back is so messed up he can't do it anymore, and they're sticking it to them too. They're dragging their feet on certifying them for retirement. And you have to ask yourself, what is the climate, this atmosphere of cities and counties who are just literally sticking it to their peace officers? It boggles my mind.
I would have found it extraordinarily interesting had this table contained the general manager of the retirement system, or a deputy city attorney who played a role in this case, or a member of the Retirement Board to explain what was it about the evidence, what was it about the way the evidence was presented, what was it about how they viewed Bill that consistently results in a 6-0 or a 7-0 vote when Bill's case comes before that board. And it has been there several times now, not only on the principal issue as to whether he should be retired, but on other secondary issues pertaining to the evidence that was going to be presented.
Is it the same person on the Retirement Board that keeps stonewalling the process?
Well, it's the Retirement Board itself. We have a 7-person Retirement Board.
Okay.
Bill's is a PERS, a Public Employee Retirement System case.
Okay.
Those cases go, after initial hearing by an independent hearing officer, they go to the Retirement Board for a determination. And The retirement board is the only one who has the authority. These 7 people, the only ones who have the authority to say, yes, Bill, you are deserving, you've met the legal test, you should have an industrial disability retirement. So far, their response has been, no, Bill, we're not going to give you one.
No oversight committee?
No oversight committee.
What about the city administrator or the chief administrative officer? I mean, he's the person that it would kind of end up with if it went up the chain of command, would it not?
Well, Bill and I have been to the public employee retirement system since his pension ultimately comes from the public employee retirement system.
Mm-hmm.
We've been there. We've talked to the legal counsel. We've talked to the San Francisco office. We've talked to the Sacramento office. Their consistent opinion is the decision to give Bill a pension lies solely with the retirement system of the city and county of San Francisco, and the public employee retirement system, that is the body in Sacramento, will not interfere with that system's exercise of its independence, which the contractual relationship between PERS and the city and county of San Francisco requires that board alone, no other body, no other board, to make this determination. There's no other place in the city and county of San Francisco in terms of a board or a commission or an officer to go to and present and seek redress in this particular case.
Well, go ahead.
Sam, well, one of the things that Mike was bringing up, and that is, the evidence. When he discovered in 2003, he discovered multiple different doctors who examined me, and those reports were totally missing from my original retirement hearing. They never saw them. And, these doctors are again reconfirming the disability. There's one doctor from a report from a Dr. Calendar in 1993, and he states very, very clearly, I have poor balance, weak dorsal flexion of the toes and left foot, unable to flex his toes with his left foot externally exverted.
Mm-hmm.
These things have never been heard by a single, the administrative law judge was never heard by the retirement board, in a formal hearing, was never heard by any of the courts. There's report after report. In fact, Mr. Hebo documented all these reports in a detailed declaration describing these medical reports that were all missing. None of these have been heard in a formal hearing for my disability retirement. And this is all being blocked by the retirement board. And this is one of the reasons why Sheriff Hennessy has supported this push to get this retirement before.
Mm-hmm. From a legal standpoint, don't they have an obligation to produce this evidence that you say was not given to you in discovery? Don't they have a legal obligation?
There's a legal obligation both at the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board and at the Retirement Board of the City and County of San Francisco on both sides. That's the applicant and the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides have the same legal obligation, which is to produce all medical reports pertaining to the injured worker and pertaining to that injured worker's application.
Wouldn't that give you the ability to kind of reopen this whole situation when it's very obvious that they did not comply with the law, compelling them to produce these at discovery?
Sam, you sit here in this studio and you listen to what Bill and I are saying.
It's outrageous.
You say to yourself, well, surely there must be somebody who, in listening to the same information and in making a determination, as Sheriff Hennessy has done,
mm-hmm.
that this information is accurate and that this information, if presented, could very well have resulted in a different decision for Bill. Mm-hmm. You and I would think, sitting here, your audience may think, well, certainly there has to be a way to resolve this. Yet Bill has been sitting for 16 years, as I have, going through all of the systems in the state of California, and we have not been successful. So we're back with Sheriff Michael Hennessy, a very tolerant and compassionate man, saying, Sheriff, this was one of your deputies. He needs to be taken care of. He needs to be either given employment or he needs to be retired. But he has sat for 16 years in the state of limbo. Most of those years he received no compensation. He's a man who's lost his home. If it were not for the fact that he's still on the deputy sheriff's payroll, still obtaining medical care,
he wouldn't have any health care.
This person, Bill Settzler, sitting in front of you, could very well be down on 3rd and Market, 2nd and Howard, simply without a place to go, without a residence, without any support system. This could be him. Fortunately, it's not.
Well, it's happening. You know that kind of makes your neck cringe, because a lot of injured workers in this state are finding themselves in that situation because nobody cares. Basic problems we have in the whole system that not only apply to what Bill is going through, but other injured workers, is nobody in state government wants to be held accountable. Workers' compensation orders that are awards and orders from judges are not being enforced. Sort of reminds us about the stop sign at the corner. If you know that there's not going to be a policeman behind that stop sign watching people run that stop sign, you're going to run it. But if you know that there's going to be somebody behind that stop sign, you're going to stop. And you're going to look both ways. And then you're going to proceed. Because, what is to stop insurance companies, cities, municipalities from totally ignoring these laws? And, our system of laws are the only things that separate us from lower animals. It's I hear these stories every day. And just as when Bill called me and told me, of his story, and I told him, I said, Bill, this is a story that we've got to do on Injured on the Job. But we're finding, as I mentioned, so many police officers, firemen, correctional officers. We have a psychologist with the Department of Corrections who's getting the same kind of treatment. And they don't care who they do it to. Like the fella says on The Sopranos, the wise guy, he says, nothing personal, just business. We're not human beings anymore. We're just claim numbers. The insurance companies are not compassionate caregivers. In my book, a lot of them are nothing but vicious sociopaths, and it's scary. It's just very, very scary.
I'm currently having lots of problems with getting medical care for injured police officers and firefighters and deputy sheriffs. And it generally stems from the legislation that was passed in 2004. In April of 2004.
April 19th.
April 19th, 2004, where the most radical change in workers' compensation occurred. More change that one day than's happened since the system was set up in 1913. And it's causing problems. It's causing problems in getting awards forced, especially awards for medical care.
Well, part of that day, every injured worker died a little. Somewhere. Some part of him. And it's, what's happening here is, like I said, it's just totally outrageous. Bill, we wish you luck. We're running out of time. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on. Here. Please don't be a stranger.
Thank you.
Come back on, whenever you find a case that needs the attention. And this is Injured on the Job. We're here for you. We want to tell your story because your story deserves to be told. Mainstream media has not done a very good job telling these stories. People have to know what's going on. People have to see what's going on, because only then, can we change this system. The governor doesn't care about injured workers. He's more interested in pimping and pandering for the insurance companies, because after all, they fill his coffers up with money. I'm Sam Gold, and this is Injured on the Job. Thank you.